and welcome to the stream. Well, hello and welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead and see what we can get into. We're going to do a little bit of this Area 2000, and this was funded by the Bigelow Corporation. Enjoy. And here we go. We got Linda Moulton Howe jumping in.
Good evening, Linda.
Hi, Art.
What in the world are you doing in Michigan?
Tonight I'm in Grass Lake, Michigan, near Ann Arbor.
And of course, Art is always trying to finagle with the controls, trying to get Linda equalized because she always has
Temple
really
University, both of
shitty
whom have been on Area
sound.
2000 in the past few months. Talk with mental health professionals
I mean,
and
he's
teachers about the
struggling. He
UFO
is
abduction syndrome.
doing
The seminars were provoked by the Robert Bigelow-sponsored Roper survey in 1991, which focused on unusual personal experiences. According to Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs, that survey indicated that perhaps 1 in 50 Americans fall into the human abduction syndrome or aspects or characteristics which may indicate some kind of involvement with that syndrome. If so, education about the phenomenon is important, especially in the mental health profession, and this was the 6th in a series of such seminars that have been held around the country. And your guest tonight, Raymond Fowler, has been an important and long-time investigator in the abduction syndrome, doing the very important books about the Betty Andreessen case, and I think this will be a very important program for listeners because the human abduction syndrome is perhaps one of the most puzzling subjects right now in this entire phenomenon. I've also visited the laboratory of Dr. W.C. Levengood, the biophysicist from the University of Michigan, who has worked so hard the past 3 years on analysis of plants from crop formations in the United States, Canada, Australia, and England. One of his most important findings is a change in plant cells that indicate an intense energy has been applied to these plants in a very short period of time, only seconds compared to the 2 or 3 hours that known hoaxers have taken to create man-made formations. I'd like to play an excerpt from a conversation that I recorded today with Dr. Levengood as he talked to me about evidence for rapid heating.
For the 3 years I've been looking at these crop circles, there is a consistency to alterations. There is a consistency within alterations of the plant cell, which indicate a very rapid heating. Now, how do we know that that's a very rapid heating? We know that because there are tiny anatomical structures in the cell of a plant called cell wall pits. These cell wall pits, as we found through our research, this didn't come about suddenly. So we found that when the cell is heated, it expands like a balloon. And these cell wall pits expand on the surface just like there'd be a spot, you blow up a balloon, there'd be a spot on it and they expand. When the heating disappears, the cell goes back to its original state. But the cell wall has properties called viscoelastic properties. This means that it's partially like a rubber band as it stretched, it doesn't quite return to its original shape.
So when you would look under a microscope, let's say at a plant that came out of one of the formations in England, you might find a change in just if it may be more oval than a plant that wasn't affected by some energy that's yet unknown.
That's right. The pits are measured and we make it's called a statistical analysis. We measure a lot of pits on the normal plants, or what we call control, and we measure a lot of pits on from the crop formation. And you can say, well, how do you know the heating is rapid? Well, what we found is if the heating is continued, we can duplicate this in a microwave, but only if it's heated very briefly in a microwave. And this is like an ordinary microwave in your kitchen, where the heat is created internally in the plant cells very rapidly. If that heating continues beyond a few seconds, then the cell expands, but then it begins to collapse, and the average size of these cell wall pits ends up smaller.
And it would cook the plant, wouldn't it?
And it would cook the plant, right.
Now that seems to me general public has not understood. Whatever's happening in cross circles, it's some kind of an energy from a biophysical, biochemical point of view. But whatever it is rapidly enough that it's not cooking the plant, so that these plants continue to grow.
Exactly. Anything that's heated just fast, and with this amount of energy, would repeat with time, puts the plant up. It would kill them. And we never find that that's the plant moves right on well.
And one of the home circles last year, the people who made it said it took them 2 hours to make one of the formations.
Yeah, that's right. You never, you apply that kind of energy.
And you'd have nothing left to grow.
Absolutely. Now, the other factor which sort of put the icing on the cake formation a lady found in England in a field beside her house in grass. There was a ring about 18 inches wide and about 7 feet in diameter of brown grass. Then inside this ring was a Y formation, also a perfect Y, and every time where the Y crossed the ring, the Y also is about 18 inches wide and extended across this ring, where the arms of the Y lapped over the ring, the plants were dead black. But only in these pocket places.
Not a carbon filter.
Yeah, right. We have no idea what this was when we finished the lab, but as the examination continued, we eliminated various things like mold and fungi and so on. And the one thing that we left was carbon black. Now this was verified as being exactly that by 2 different laboratories. By heat of a special kind. I'll get to that in a second. This layer was very puzzling because you could rub the leaf of the plant, the black would come off on your fingers, very typical of carbon black, and underneath the cells of the plant, although they were dead, they were not burned, they were not particularly injured, and they looked the same as those outside this intersection area. This was an extremely thin layer, so the big problem is here, where could this carbon come from? Well, it finally dawned on us that this was not coming from anywhere. It was right on the plant itself. It was a very, very superficial layer, and it consisted of all plants, house plants, if you look at their leaves, they tend to be shiny. This is due to what's known as a sugarized layer, which is a hydrocarbon substance.
Like a waxy coating.
Like a waxy coating, exactly. That is a sugarized layer. That's just like hydrocarbon wax. And what was happening here is this energy, this heat energy was so rapid, and it also was of a special, it's called a reducing atmosphere, as opposed to the normal oxidizing atmosphere when you burn wood in your fireplace. It literally reduced in a very rapid way this paraffin to pure carbon, leaving the under structure of the plant essentially normal. Well, this was another factor that showed there was a very obvious rapid heating.
And ours, Dr. Levengood is now studying soil samples and plant samples from people in Michigan and other parts of the country where they have had either rings or circles in their backyards or front yards seemingly associated with what we now call the human abduction syndrome. And what is interesting is that in that soil, and in some cases in the abduction syndrome, appears to be hardened or baked or dead, it has found that when some of the plants from these rings and circles in the yards of abductees are planted, they grow at an accelerated rate, exactly as he has found from plant samples in the various countries that he has studied the last 3 years.
Wow. Do you find yourself now drawn more to the abduction aspect than you have been, Linda?
I think did a strange harvest back in 1980 because of the Judy Doherty case. I had not been aware of the whole abduction syndrome until I started working on a strange harvest, and that is what led me to the Judy Doherty and Cindy Tyndall case, and that was the mother and daughter who had been traveling with their family in Houston, Texas in May of 1973, and it was an incident where 5 people in a car apparently all lose time, all at the same time, but no one has any conscious memory of what happened during that event, and that's something that Ray Fowler probably tonight to go into. The whole issue, there are multiple witnesses, and there are cases of where there are people in a car that seem to be simultaneously affected by amnesia. It's part of this manipulation of our minds that we don't understand very well.
Has there been any hypnosis done in that case yet?
Yes. When I did A Strange Harvest, I worked with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who was then head of counseling and testing at the University of Wyoming, with Judy, who was the mother. And that case came about in one of the ways that researchers often receive cases. She had been suffering very severe headaches, and she had been having nightmares, but she had no conscious memory of any event that related necessarily to these headaches and the nightmares. She sought out a medical doctor for treatment of her headache, and it was the medical doctor that suggested that perhaps this was related to some sort of psychological trauma. That led to eventually hypnosis, and in the hypnosis she could see a beam of light that had an animal going up in it, but she could not clearly see what the animal was in that first hypnosis session. Later, while I was working on A Strange Harvest, that case became known to a group in Arizona that were also working on the entire UFO phenomenon and all its complicated facets. They got me in touch with her, and eventually we did the hypnosis session in which she broke through her amnesia completely and saw a brown and white path going up in this beam of light. 10 years later, her daughter, who had been a teenager in 73 and had rejected everything about that night, had rejected her mother's claim that there was something unusual, finally sought out help herself, and in her own independent hypnosis with Dan Carpenter in Missouri, she also saw a brown and white path going up in a pale beam of yellow light into yet an unidentified object in the sky, and that's how throughout my entire research of mutilations, I came into the human abduction syndrome.
Boy, this multiple witness business is particularly interesting, isn't it?
Yes, because you have at least some kind of verification, and in their case, the mother never talked with the daughter, and in fact, the family have stories about how the daughter never wanted to hear anything about what her mother or anybody would have to say, no matter what. So you had a resistance to the entire idea of UFOs or anything else.
So perhaps some sort of psychological protective mechanism.
Yeah, the daughter was extremely resistant in avoidance of the subject, and then eventually, which does happen sometimes, and Ray probably has cases himself where something, whether it's in dreams or some other way, people are nagged by something, and eventually, as Cindy got older, something bothered her, and she eventually went into hypnosis, and out came a very, very similar story.
Well, I sure do thank you for all of this, Linda. Fascinating stuff.
So to know that there's a circle in a yard in Michigan right now, that soil and plant samples are being studied by a biophysicist who absolutely did not 3 years ago think that he was dealing with anything but meteorology.
All right, Linda, are you going to be back in Philadelphia next week?
Yeah, next Sunday.
All right, we'll look for you and your report then.
Thank you, and my best to Ray Fowler.
Thank you. And Ray Fowler, indeed, coming right up. Raymond E. Fowler was born in Salem, Massachusetts, and received a BA degree from Fort Intelligence Liberal Arts. Aspirant from service with the USAF Security Service and GTE Strategic Systems Division. He retired early as a task manager and senior planner involved with major weapons systems development. He is quite a contributor to ufology. He's respected by UFO researchers throughout the world. His investigative reports have been published in congressional hearings, military publications, newspapers, magazines, and professional journals in the USA and abroad. The UFO Project's chief scientific consultant, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, has called Raymond Fowler, quote, an outstanding UFO investigator. I know of none who is more dedicated, trustworthy, or persevering. Ray currently serves as National Director of Investigations on the Board of Directors for the Mutual UFO Network, an international group investigating UFOs. He has appeared on over 200 radio and television shows around the United States since 1963. He is a 3 times published author. He is director of his own planetarium and observatory, and a very popular speaker. And this evening, he will speak with you. Here, all the way from Massachusetts, is Ray Fowler. Good evening, Ray. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, Art.
Excellent. I don't know about excellent. Now our telephone connection seems to be a little bit noisy.
Maybe it's on my end. I can try a different channel if you'd like to hold for a second.
Let's try it. Let's switch and see if we can clean it up. Or on the other hand, it may just be in the line itself. We just got a long connection here.
Is that better?
As a matter of fact, it is.
Here we go again a little bit. No, we'll better leave it alone, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll see if it clears up. If it doesn't, at some point, I'll simply redial the number and we'll reconnect. Ray, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I take it that you heard Linda's report.
Yes, I did. Very, very interesting. I had heard about his work before. It was nice to hear him personally describe it.
You have been a investigator for MUFON for how long, Ray?
Oh, I started out as the state director for the state of Massachusetts probably back in the 70s. After I got out of NICAP, the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. It's been quite a long time, probably since 1970.
All right. You must run into all kinds of fascinating stuff. Tell us a little bit about MUFON, if you would, and what exactly do you do? Do you go running about different parts of the country or the world investigating some of these cases, or how do you pursue it?
Well, when I was the state director for Massachusetts, I did a lot of on-site investigations, hundreds of them. When I was made director of investigations for MUFON, I really didn't do too many of the on-site investigations of just regular reports. I was more involved with abduction reports and also in putting together a field investigator's manual for MUFON, keeping that up to date, and receiving telephone calls from people all over the country who had UFO experiences, and then my duty was really to refer them to the state directors for MUFON for investigations. So instead of doing an awful lot of on-site investigations now, I refer a lot of cases, and I pick a few cases that I'm very interested in, give them the FBI treatment, maybe spend 2 or 3 years investigating just one report rather than just an on-site investigation of a regular UFO report. I'm spending more time on the abduction phenomenon. Right now I'm concentrating on a fact of the abduction phenomenon that I think deserves further study, and that's the paraphysical nature of some of these abduction reports. The one that Linda just mentioned, for example, the Judy Doherty case is fascinating because it involved an out-of-the-body experience as well as a physical abduction. And in my correspondence with, how much is that, around 4,000 letters, the response to the watchers, and personal contacts, I find that a certain percentage of the abduction reports involve OBEs. And being a nuts and bolts person for so many years, I sort of ignored things like this, and a lot of other investigators are too. So right now I'm concentrating on that facet of the abduction phenomenon. It's fascinating, and I think that it should be given the FBI treatment as well, and I'm trying to do that right now.
I talked to a lot of serious investigators, Ray, and many of them now seem to feel that the abduction aspect of the whole UFO controversy is the best path to follow in trying to prove something or trying to finally put our hands on some real evidence. Would you share that view?
Yes, I would. And another thing I'm very interested in is the physical mind. left on abductees. I'm collecting dozens of photographs of scoop marks in exactly the same location that the ladies at the table, many of them you would think were on the same person, in the same place, the same size. They may vary a little bit. I think this is one aspect that has to be looked at too.
Where are these marks generally on the body?
Well, usually, not always, usually they're on the leg over the tibia or shin bone.
Mm-hmm.
Another place it would be on the arm or on the spinal column, sometimes on the back and forehead, but the most common one that I'm finding is just over the shin bone.
Are these marks, when you see them, always in a healed condition, or are some of them that are more recent actually not healed all the way, or what do you find?
Most of the ones I've seen healed. If you've read the Watchers and know about some of the things I reported from my own personal life, when I went to the dermatologist, he said it was in the process of healing. But I haven't been able to get to anybody where, except Jack Wiener, and they seem to be healing as well. He was one of the Allergastic Dungeon abductees. I have never been able to get to someone other than myself the next day to see, what it looks like. Usually you get these reports, months or years after they happen. Most people don't even know what these things are. They'll have a close encounter UFO sighting, and they'll have flashbacks or dreams, have an abduction experience, and finally, a certain percentage of them get involved with a UFO investigator, and lo and behold, they look at that scoop mark and they say, wow, this is a benchmark of the abduction phenomenon, and ask them, where did they get that? And either remember, it usually coincides with a UFO experience.
How many people do you suppose, and this is speculative, I guess, have had these abduction experiences, and what percentage of them seem to recall it? I know that the Bigelow Foundation did a big study on it, indicating as many as 1 in 50. Would you think that to be credible?
I would say that 1 in 50 have exhibited the typical benchmarks or characteristics of an abduction experience, but that doesn't perhaps qualify them as an abductee, because there may be some other phenomena that are involved that coincides with the abduction phenomenon. I would say that probably a high percentage of that 1 in 50 may have had an abduction experience. But there's no real way of telling. I think this is the first step, a statistical study like this, and I think it must be refined. I think that these people, or a certain percentage of these people, should be chosen and investigated further, and then a percentage maybe come out of that.
All right, Ray, hold on just 1 sec while I ID the station, and we'll be right back. This is Area 2000. I'm Art Bell. It's Sunday evening.
From Jackie Gomes Plaza downtown, this is KDWN Las Vegas.
Good evening, everybody. This is Area 2000. My guest is Ray Fowler, all the way from the state of Massachusetts. And we're talking about abductions this evening. Ray, are you still there?
I sure am.
Good. What in the world, I'm going to backtrack a little bit now, got you interested in this whole field of work? I mean, how did you come to it?
Well, I was interested in experimental aircraft and space travel as a teenager back in the mid-40s, and when flying discs appeared in headlines all over the country, and the Air Force immediately took an interest, I took an interest as well, and as a teenager just began collecting information on the subject. And on July 4th, 1947, had my own theological study when I was working at a farm in broad daylight. I saw this